ripe old age of 36, Ruby Tuesday is undergoing, get this, an explosive midlife crisis. We're going to show you the extremes the restaurant chain is going through to reinvent itself inside and out. Remember, I said explosive. That's next. All right, for today's Brand X, we turn to the Rolling Stones to help tell the story, because starting today, they will be saying goodbye to Ruby Tuesday. The casual dining restaurant chain has completely gutted and rebuilt more than 650 company-owned stores. And to say goodbye to the old Ruby Tuesday, get this, it's blowing up the last of its old stores at 3 p.m. Eastern today. The whole spectacle will be broadcast live on their website. Here to talk about this explosive renovation and approach to marketing is Dennis Lombardi. He's the EVP of Food Service Strategies at WD Partners, and Phil Greifeld, the CEO of restaurant chain Huddle House. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Alexis.
So, Dennis, why would Ruby Tuesdays pull a stunt like this?
Well, one of the most difficult things for a restaurant chain to do when it's repositioning itself is to get the non-users aware that there's something radically different in the chain to entice them to come back and give it a try.
So how do we know if it's worked? Because I know they've been doing these renovations now, we mentioned just before, on as many as 650 of the different restaurants, but that's kind of been quietly evolving over time. Why the big stunt this time around?
Because it's announcing that throughout the system, the stores are now different. It allows them time to put in the service changes and the menu changes that complement the physical changes to the building itself.
So, Phil, what are some of those changes, whether they be physical or in terms of casual dining? What are the trends that are going on in this industry? Because Ruby Tuesdays has been beaten pretty badly.
Yeah, Alexis, clearly we have no plans at Huddle House to blow up any restaurants, but clearly in today's competitive marketplace, it's very important to stay relevant to the consumer and the consumer base. So at Huddle House, we have some of the same initiatives as Ruby Tuesdays in remodeling stores. We have 440 stores in the Southeast, and we have currently remodeled about 300 of those stores that are producing terrific results for us, that are producing double-digit same-store sales increases.
And Phil, you know, it sounds like you're firing on all cylinders. I would expect, or from what I hear, whether you look at Bennigan's or Steak and Ale, I mean, you're hearing a lot of not so terrific stories about the dining sector, particularly people going out to lunch or even dinner, changes in menus because of the economic downturn. Are you seeing any of that?
Yes, we see that. Clearly, it's a competitive marketplace from a lot of factors, not just consumers' disposable spending income, but also pressures on consumers' disposable income because of food cost. We're lucky, fortuitous. We are bucking a trend at Huddle House. I think that's a direct function of having carved out a unique market niche in the marketplace for us.
All right, let me turn back to you, Dennis. Why does Ruby Tuesdays have to rebrand themselves, and how do we know that this time around it's going to work for the chain?
Well, they have to rebrand themselves because they were having trouble differentiating themselves from the great middle market of casual dining. And just as we just heard, you need to have a differentiated place, a place in the market that's a niche. Their idea of an American cuisine, I think, gives them some of that opportunity. The different kind of decor that they're having gives it much more in tune with the way the consumer is feeling and thinking right now. And the proof will be in the pudding. These kind of major repositioning remodels can create 10, 15, even 20% increases in sales.
Wow.
The last chain to do something at this magnitude, by the way, was Benihana. And Benihana has seen significant increases in its same-store sales. The wild card for Ruby Tuesday is the economy.
Yeah.
And that would be the one thing that's likely to have some braking effect on how much of an increase in same-store sales the chain actually gets. You
know, Dennis, I have to ask you, just moments ago, we were showing the clip of basically someone who's knocking down the old chandeliers that used to be in the old Ruby Tuesdays. And they're going with this really sort of sexy advertising campaign about executives who are kind of knocking off all the old stuff in hopes that they can create some exuberance around this. Is it a cool concept?
That's where they're positioning it. They're also going upscale with the concept somewhat. Absolutely. They're really looking now to try to get to the Gen X and to the millennials as the new major consumer group. So I think their target is right. I think their strategy is right. I think the results will be on execution on the economy.
Phil, let me turn back to you about the economic situation, because you talked a little bit before about differentiation. What are you doing in terms of incentivizing people to make sure that they leave their house, they pay the amount of money that's required to fill up their tank to get to you?
Yeah, in today's economy, Alexis, it's offering everyday value. So we make sure in the breadth of offerings that we have on our menu that a consumer can have an everyday value for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that will entice them to come into our stores. Also, you have to ensure you have a fresh perspective on product development and continue to offer fresh new products that you cannot get either at home or the supermarket or at other restaurants. So that are some of our big initiatives, and it's helping us drive traffic in even today's tough economy.
And Phil, just finally before we leave, we've also heard about a lot of issues, banking-related issues with loans in the restaurant industry. Are you still having no issues in terms of funding and owning and operating your chain?
The funding sources, we're not having challenges. Probably there's a little bit of a slowdown, but I think that slowdown is a function of the bankers and the underwritings doing a little bit more due diligence than they have in the past years, which quite candidly is probably long-term healthy for the restaurant industry.
All right, Phil and Dennis, we'll leave it there. I appreciate the two of you joining us today.
Thank you, Alexis.
My pleasure, Alexis. Thank you.
And I do want to mention to people, if they would like to watch Ruby Tuesdays destroy its old self, log on to rubytuesday.com at 3 o'clock Eastern Time this afternoon. It's going to be explosive.